Hey parents, welcome to the Mommy Pod, where we keep it real about parenthood. The joy, the chaos, and everything in between. I'm your host, a single mom, educator, and everyday woman, learning to give herself grace while chasing her dreams. Whether you're folding laundry, stuck in traffic, or sneaking in 5 minutes of peace, this space is your reminder that you're not alone. And you're doing better than you think. So, grab a coffee, grab a tea, grab a drink, take a deep breath, and let's get into today's episode. Hi everyone and welcome back to the Mommy Pod. Today's episode is a tender one. We're talking about grief, motherhood, and what it looks like to continue living, and even finding moments of joy after experiencing unimaginable challenges. Our guest today is Julia Pearce, an inspiring presenter, grief educator, author, and lifelong learner who uses her voice and lived experience to support others navigating disability and healing. Julia's story is one of deep love, resilience, and transformation, shaped by her journey as a mother to her son, who survived a serious illness at age 2 and went on to live with ongoing illness and disability. Through everything, Julia carries forward what he taught her about joy, audacity, adventure, and music. Julia, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really learned a lot from our episode, and you will all hear in my voice that I am a little rushy, and I feel really bad about that because this episode was such a serious one and such a touching one. But I had my children, and they were in the background, running around, fighting, just being kids. We went outside. I decided to go sit outside at one point, and that was a little bit better, but then they were picking the flowers that, are planted flowers. Like, let's not touch those. But throughout the entire thing, I was so grateful to have those moments with my children because I was talking to a mom who had lost her child. So, I was thinking, I am so grateful for this moment because eventually these children are going to grow up and I'm going to have these memories and these moments, and it's okay because it is what it is. I gave our guest my undivided attention when I could. And I was also making sure that my children were safe. So I do want to apologize to this guest because I feel like this episode in particular needed a quiet, safe space. And to be fair to myself, I did set that up. I had a candle ready to be lit. I had my living room area ready to record. And their dad was supposed to pick them up at 3:30. I let him know that I had an interview at 3:30. So him picking them up at 3:30 would be great. I should not have said that because I feel like unintentionally sometimes our co-parents can sabotage what we're going through, So he showed up at 3:50. So I basically did this entire interview with one eye on my children. 1 eye and a half because there's 2 kids. So yeah, you have to give yourself grace. So yeah, and I'm proud of myself for continuing this. I didn't want to cancel last minute. And I feel like I still got a lot out of this episode, and you all will too. But I just wanted to give a little context into why I feel a little rushy. I just am a little anxious about giving this guest my attention and also parenting. But like I said, starting this podcast, it's not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm going to be a little messy. My kids are going to be in the background. And it is what it is. This is the Mommy Pod. Thank you for listening. Um, yeah, I hope you get inspired by our next guest. She, you'll hear. It's just beautiful how she talks about honoring grief and honoring the person that you lost. Hi, Julia. Welcome to the Mommy Pod. Can you tell us about yourself?
You bet. So I'm Julia. I live out in the Mountain West. I live between two mountains. I love to be able to see my mountains. In fact, I can see both of them from my windows when I look outside. I have grown up here in around the mountains, but I love to travel. So that's part of what I get to do now. I have been around most parts of the world and throughout my travels. And part of that came starting with day trips with our son. And our son is what I get to speak about and share about now within my story. And we'll get into that a little bit. But that's who I get to share about. I also love gardening. I also love climbing in the mountains and reading a good book by a lake. I also love to just enjoy being outside, checking out the birds, and getting into nature. That's a little bit about me.
I love that we have mountains here. I'm pretty sure our view is not as great because we do have a lot of buildings, but we're in Pasadena and we have a lot of mountains surrounding us. And that's what I like about this place because you can see the mountains and we get birds visiting us too, which is special.
Nice.
Well, thank you for telling us about yourself. Can you share about your journey into becoming a grief educator?
Yeah, so part of that began many years ago. Our son, when he was almost 2 years old, survived an illness, and with some of that illness became some unknown parts, and with that came some grief. So grief is anything that changes that you don't agree with, and that there's some loss there. And that started my understanding and my curiosity into what grief can look like for certain people. And then years later, our son's life changed again after his initial illness. He had extended illnesses and ongoing disabilities that came to him. It was after he passed away, after living with disability for 20 years, and we had many adventures across all of those years, that I began to get more curious about grief and what that loss looked like, not only for myself, but for other people that I was coming in connection with. And so I began to get more curious. I began to learn more and research more and sit with it more. And we don't often sit with our grief. And so I began to go into more classes to get more training and to understand that. And that's how becoming a grief educator came into helping myself through the many years that have since passed. We're now at year 13 after our son has passed away, and understanding what grief can mean for myself, for other people around me, for other people who adored our son, and his professional world, meaning those teachers and educators and the many therapists who work with him, and also other family members. So that's how becoming a grief educator came to me, is my curiosity and saying, what do I do if I'm not okay today? Or if it becomes too much today? And then how can I help somebody else? And that's what I have come to do now, is looking forward. How do I answer that question? So what am I supposed to do? Because I'm not able to help our son any longer since he has passed away. But what am I supposed to be doing? And what can I do with all of the knowledge that he gave to us? And that's what came to me, is learning more about things, learning more about grief and what this can be. And so I came into this realm of grief education.
Wow, I'm so sorry for your loss. And the way that you found meaning and continue to honor your son through your life is really moving.
Thank you for that. I think it's important for me to have understood that I am still our son's mom. I am still Dallin's mom, but in a brand new way. And I'm perplexed by it. Many times throughout the day, we just celebrated his birthday, and we did celebrate. We got a cake and we had them write happy birthday on it. And we had a nephew over and he was here celebrating, and we shared experiences together. And yet we do miss him. We miss his joy and his audacity and his tenacity and all of the complexities that life brought, because humans bring complexity. And so with all of these things, grief and joy and love have come together for almost 35 years now within my space. And it's knowing how to do it all together. It doesn't come with a manual by any means. There's no date, there's no end, there's nothing. It's a beginning, middle, and forever with it.
I can't imagine. How did your understanding of motherhood shift during that time? Because you said that you are still his mom, which is so beautiful. Was there ever a moment where you felt like you had to redefine what motherhood and that strength looked like for you?
You know, that question has come to me many times. In fact, I have just finished writing my second book, and one of the questions that came to me was, how am I still our son's mom? How am I still Dallin's mom? And I have almost rampaged up and down the halls in our home and across the kitchen counter with my husband. And when people say that to me, and when they said it to me right after he passed away, I just would almost melt, because he wasn't here to make popcorn with any longer. He wasn't here to take to the doctors or therapists or school or ride the train with. And I had to come to a point where I'm not the person who I was any longer. I didn't get to do those things with him any longer. And that shift within me had to be, so now what? So am I going to be a person who can do what I learned with another purpose? Could I do it for myself? Meaning, could I say, what was it that I learned from Dallin, with Dallin, alongside of him, and then take that into another space? Could I share it with another mom? Could I share it with another auntie? Could I share it with another human? And bring that, because the shift would sometimes melt my soul. And I now can say, yes, I will always be Dallin's mom, because he made me a mom. He's our only child. And I can now sit with it with sometimes a slight joyful grin of what gratitude I have for this experience of being Dallin's mom. And also say, so what am I going to do with that again? And how am I going to help another person perhaps just sit with it and say, how does this feel for you? That shift came slowly. Again, those first 5, even 8 years, perhaps, when somebody said that, well, you're still Dallin's mom, I wanted to just crumble. And perhaps I did privately. In public, I would just nod my head and say, there's a way to look at it. It was a life shift for me to be able to hear those words for a very long time, because he wasn't here to do those beloved things with.
Do your kids love stories, colors, castles, and adventures? Well, Princess Liliana and the Rainbow Castle is more than just a storybook. It's an interactive journey where little readers explore colors while building imagination. From the sunny yellows of the Golden Hall to the sparkling blue sapphire shoes that she wears. Each page bursts with magic. Plus, it comes with a coloring book and activity pages, so the fun continues even after the story. It's perfect for toddlers, preschoolers, and early readers. Turn rainy days into rainbow days with Princess Liliana and the Rainbow Castle. It's the perfect way to teach your little ones colors while sparkling their imagination. It's available now on Amazon KDP. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. What do you wish that people understood more, like about grief, especially for mothers who are going through it?
I think grief comes to women, to mothers, at many times. It could be when the dream that you held, the picture that you held, is no longer with you, and honoring that grief, that sorrow. Grief came to us even while our son was surviving his first illness. We were watching him survive. While we were watching him change, the first illness took all of his development. It took all of his life skills. So he wasn't able to sit up or um, walk or talk or do any of those things. And it doesn't have to be that catastrophic for a mom or a parent to be in grief, because any kind of loss, it could be that the small changes, like you may have to move, you may have to change how the child is doing things within their community. You may not have the same type of personality in front of you. Sometimes when we are becoming new parents, we have this view of what it's going to be, and they're going to like this, and they're going to go do these things. And then the child becomes who they're supposed to be. And then there's the big things, which could be similar to what happened to our son. He had a massive illness, and a massive illness could be something that was unknown, similar to us, or it could be another something. And grief comes at the strangest times. It comes back and around, and you think you have come through a moment or a memory, and then it comes back to you again. And what I would say is honor it, and see how it feels the next time it comes to you, and what is going to be the place for you to let it happen, and take time with your grief. Again, sometimes kids don't learn to ride a bike until they're 12, and you thought they would when they were 8. And that is also a loss that you have to kind of sit with, because it's not yours to do that. And is that hard? It is. Is it as hard as what happened in our child's life? Perhaps it is for that family. We don't need to compare how difficult things are. So sit with it and let it be. And we don't need to compare how grief sits with one another.
Well, that's really meaningful and powerful to say that you don't have to compare grief. I really appreciate how you speak about grief without. I appreciate how you speak about grief without comparing it. I think that gives people permission to honor their own experiences without feeling like they have to measure them or that their pain isn't enough to matter. Thank you. Um, when you, what is, let's, and I really like your son's name. That's a really cool name. I've never heard that name before.
Thank you.
Dallin. It's really neat. Um, you said something powerful that you now live with what your son taught you: resilience, joy, audacity, adventure, and music. I'd like to sit with that for a moment. Can you share what those qualities looked like through him and how you carry those lessons with you today and any memories that you continue to do today that reminds you of him?
Oh, I love that question. So Dallin was born this audacious, curious, wonderful human. And we call him the dude because he was born this way. He loved facing the wind and watching fireworks and flying kites. And when he started with his illness right before the age of 2 years old, he kept that. So when the doctors didn't know if he was going to survive this illness, he would watch them and go forward. And when they didn't know what was going to happen next, and Dallin stood up again, which he had lost all of that developmental skills, and then he stood up and started walking again. The doctors then realized that they needed to just follow Dallin's lead and keep going with him. And then when this, so he had hundreds and hundreds of seizures with this illness. And when those seizures would come back and cause more storming in his just tiny little brain, then he would bounce back again. It was this beautiful, really intense thing to watch because he would relearn the skills that he had just lost. And so the tenacity, the inner drive that was a part of his amazing essence, just powerful things that we think we can teach children, and sometimes we can. And Dallin came with it uh, as part of his soul. And then he became this adventurous, like, let's just go try it. He loved going fast. He loved going up and down and across lakes and down the mountains. And he loved to ski and he loved to be with people. All along the way that his medical world got more intense and his illnesses continued. So when I say I try and do more of what he was doing, it's, can I get up? You may hear my grovelly voice because I have allergies. And I'm like, oh, woe is me. I have allergies. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's allergies. It's not any other thing. Get going. Keep doing the day, because are we going to keep going alongside life? Not in spite of it, not beside it, but ongoing with life. That's what Dallin taught. The resilience part of him, when he would have a really big test done at the hospital, and it was some big things happening with him with the medical journey that he was on. And he would get done, and the only thing that he was concerned about was getting to the vending machine to get the stinkiest chips possible because he loved them and get back on the road to get home to watch a funny movie. And the stinkiest chips were things like Doritos and Cheetos and the things that just made a mess everywhere, which he loved. And we just kept washing everything because why use a handkerchief or a paper towel when you could just use your pants or whatever else teenage boys use instead of those paper towels that are right next to you. That's what I'm talking about with resilience, is his ability to keep getting up. Sometimes we hear the phrase fall down 7, get up 8 times. He lived it. And that's what I try and continue to do.
I love that. That is so good and so special. And that he liked to go fast. I think that I'm glad to hear that because my daughter likes that. So I've always wondered if other kids like to go fast when we're on the swing. She's like faster or anything. So that's something they have in common. What it does we're talking about resilience. I want to jump to what resilient joy means.
Resilient joy to me means that we can find the joy in the middle of all of the gnarly, hard, incredibly head tilting moments. So there's joy in the middle of the stuff that is pounding on us. And again, in the times when we were looking at what is going on, the ongoing never ending for Dallon's lifetime. Dallon survived another 20 years after that first illness. He found joy. He would watch the birds flitting around the bird feeder outside, and it would crack him up. And at the same time, he was experiencing a degenerative illness. So he had a muscle wasting, which means his muscles were deteriorating at the same time as finding birds being hilarious. So the joy and resilience going together is how he looked at the world. Grandpa being funny as he needs help walking down the hall, as Dallin needed help walking down the hall, looking forward to a birthday while not really understanding how many people were around him at the end of his life. It's this and this. It can be the hard and the thing that is loved at the same time, that resilient joy. And I think we forget to see the good, and it doesn't mean we don't see the hard at the same time. It means that we can just pick out that one moment, that one piece of, wait, I can see it today, even if the rest of my day is, wow, I don't understand any of the rest of this, and it's very overwhelming. I still can see that bird. I still can see the sun just popping through a little bit. I can remember the sun is there if I can't see it at all today.
Wow. What a beautiful, powerful observation that you had of him, that he found joy in even in hard times. And that's something that we can all take away in this today is that find the joy even through hard times. What would you, for any mom that's listening, and we have dads listening too, so any parent who is listening who may be going through grief, loss, or something incredibly heavy, what would you want them to hear today? And
I think, oh, yes, ma'am.
sorry, I'll piggyback that because you've said a lot of good nuggets, but what helped you keep going on days that felt impossible?
What I think helped us and helped me is following Dallin. So we followed him, and when he needed to have a day that was really relaxed, then we relaxed. And we put things to the side. Literally, there were days at times in his life that we did not answer the phone. We did not answer the door because we needed to focus entirely on being well. And that included ourself. So I needed to be physically well, emotionally well, spiritually well, and keep my intellect. So I had to keep learning about things to do all of those other parts of it. And I did them one at a time. The other part was if Dallin was present, he was fully in the moment. He did not worry about the next day or the next hour. He was right with you. One of the ways he showed that, and I love to share this with people, is he would look directly into your eyes. By doing that, he would pull onto the back of your head and put you right forehead to forehead with him and look directly into your eyes as if he were saying, "Are you here with me? Can you be here with me? Wait." We're going to take a breath. And by doing that, it was as if he were pulling us into his flow of life, into his rhythm of life. And we don't often do that now in society, in this part of life, by saying, "Are you here with me? Let's pause." And that's what I would tell families, parents, and other family members is, can we just pause? Maybe it's over a bowl of soup. Maybe it's under a comfy blanket together as we just be. And it's really powerful, intensely showing one another that we're here, paying attention to one another.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And one last question. Actually, two more questions, sorry. What does healing look like when life doesn't go back to what it was before? But how do you know that you're starting to heal and make progress?
Healing is one of those words, I think it now has a feeling of almost that you're all done, that it's never going to be needed to be visited again or taken care of, like a wound that you can't see any longer. And yet I have wounds from like scratches from my childhood because I was a very active child. I was one who climbed trees and jumped fences and things. And I can still see my scars. They're healed, but I can see them. And so healing to me means that I have come to a place where with the acute grief, the immediate grief, and the ongoing grief of our son's passing, that he has since died, that I can be peaceful in a moment of time. And then a date can come along, like the date of his passing, and I feel immense missing. It's not the same sorrow as when it was acute, new grief, brand new, or the first 2 or 3, whatever years. But I still feel it because I still love him. It is still that. So healing to me means that I'm able to share and come into a space and be also curious about what others may be able to say and say to others, okay, there is another perspective, and it's going to be open and soft hearted and generous. And that to me means that I may be at a space of healing. I don't think healing means we're ever done. I don't think that that is how it goes, because I also have family members who have experienced other types of loss, um, child loss, other types of loss 50 or more years ago, and they can share with me deep feelings immediately, and then it it hasn't quote unquote gone away. There is no making it be gone, because grief is also love as well.
Yes, I've always been told that grief comes in waves, and I truly believe that.
Yes. Yes.
Um, Julia, if there's someone that's listening today that could be at the beginning of their grief journey, what would you say to them?
I would tell them what I was told on the day of our son's funeral. I close family members, they had also experienced child loss, and they told me a few things. And one of them was the first year will not make any sense, and it's going to be okay. And to find other people would be my added piece, is to find other people that you can sit with. We don't need to fix grief. There is nothing to fix, but having somebody who can hear you, to listen, and sometimes there is nothing to say, then that would be what I would let other people who are new in grief, and new is up to the person. Like new, there's not a date for that.
Yeah. Julia, thank you so much for sharing your story with us with so much honesty and grace. This conversation, it reminds us that even in the grief, even in the deepest grief, there can still be meaning, connection, and moments of joy. To everyone
Thank
listening,
you.
yeah, to everyone listening, if this episode touched you, please share it with whoever might need it. And Julia, where can our listeners find you and learn more about your work and your books?
So the best place to find me is on my website. That's juliapearce.net. Pearce is Pearce. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, and I do have a YouTube channel as well that has the titles of the songs that go with my first book included there.
Amazing. Titles of the songs, like songs to listen to while we read your book.
Yeah, there's a playlist that goes with the first book.
Wow, that's really great. Okay. Thank you so much. And I'm also going to link your website and information in our show notes.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Before we go, I just want to say thank you. The Mommy Pod is built in the middle of real life: work, kids, laundry, rebuilding, and dreaming. And every time you listen, share, or support what we create here, it truly matters. If this episode spoke to you, one of the best ways to keep this podcast going is by supporting our Mommy Pod products. From our children's books and activity books to our calming sprays and digital downloads designed for moms and parents and families. Everything you purchase goes directly back into keeping the show alive. And if you can't purchase right now, sharing this episode with another parent means just as much. Thank you for being here.